So we just got back from watching The Boy and the Heron, the newest Hayao Miyazaki Studio Ghibli movie, and we're going to have our thoughts on that coming up in just a second.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
I'm a OG boy. Know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side. Know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another iPopcorn for that review. I'm Chris.
I'm Nick.
And like I said, we are talking about The Boy and the Heron. So this is allegedly the last film directed by Hayao Miyazaki, acclaimed animator and director of some of the most famous Studio Ghibli movies and the founder of Studio Ghibli. And like I said, it's supposed to be his last one. He has said that before, so we'll see. But this certainly, without getting into anything too early or anything, this certainly feels like a final movie for him. And I think, I don't know, where are you at with? Have you seen like, the vast majority of like the big heavy hitter?
Yeah, I mean,
Ghibli movies?
I've seen quite a bit. Probably some of the ones people haven't watched as well. I haven't seen all of them. I do want to go back and watch all of them, but I mean, I've seen a good portion of them.
Yeah, certainly like the major, or to me the major ones anyway, are like Howl's Moving Castle, Spirited Away, Princess Mononoke, Ponyo. Maybe
Yeah.
Ponyo's one of the lesser ones. I don't know. And there's some that I don't know if he directed them or not, like Kiki's Delivery Service, and
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure
he wrote it for
Nausicaa.
sure. I think he directed it as well. Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind for sure.
Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind is great. So yeah, having going into this as a fan and this being potentially his last one, you kind of enter this theater with a certain level of reverence, I think. And man, I don't know, what's the first thing that stands out to you? Because there's a lot to love here, obviously, which doesn't surprise me at all. But
Yeah, I mean, mostly it's just the animation. I think is the great part of this movie. So like all the previews and stuff are saying, this is his magnum opus. It's his best movie, and I don't think it's even in my top three. But I did think it was a good movie. But
the interesting thing about talking about a Hayao Miyazaki movie, or even a Studio Ghibli movie in general, is you kind of can't compare it to other movies. It's almost like you can just compare it within the catalog of Studio Ghibli, and it's not number one or number two, like you said, but that's not to take much away from this movie. It's still like amazing.
yeah,
It's just
beautiful.
like the story here didn't elevate it to the points that I think something like Howl's Moving Castle, Spirited Away, the greatest ones. I don't think we quite got there, but the animation is next level. I mean, there's some really, really amazing hand painted backgrounds and just the fact that we're seeing a hand drawn 2D animated movie in 2023 at the end of 2023 is amazing enough. But just really perfectly the painted backdrops and the paint and the way interiors of houses look, and
Yeah,
and obviously you're gonna get your typical Hayao Miyazaki, like we're sort of entering like an alternative universe or a
magical
kind of a
realm
magical
or
world.
something.
So in that way, it felt there's a lot of parallels to be drawn with other Studio Ghibli movies.
I mean, it definitely
And I
gave me
think
Spirited Away vibes.
it feels a little bit like Spirited Away because you've got this kid, running away, like maybe not running away from his parents, but off on his own on this adventure on his own in this crazy, unreal, hallucinogenic world. And I thought that, I think it's subtle, but I think everybody's gonna probably interpret it the same way as me, which, this world is like dominated by birds and bird people, I guess.
Yeah,
And I hope I don't want to dip too much into things that you should just see for yourself in this movie, but I think that was a nice allegory for Studio Ghibli and Hayao Miyazaki as a director, because what else would be his spirit animal other than a bird? This guy's obviously been obsessed with flight and all things flight since he was a child. I believe his father was like an airplane mechanic in World War II. So
yeah,
he's
that
like
I
a
don't know.
military.
But
So
I know like
this,
Porco
you know,
Rosso and the wind
yeah,
also
right.
rises, or the wind rises.
Yeah, tons of movies involve flight. Even something like Howl's Moving Castle, you've got him as a bird turning into a bird, or you've got Spirited Away has elements of flight with the dragon whose name I'm forgetting right now. But the guy's obviously obsessed with flight, and this is a personal. You can tell this is a personal story, and I think to some extent, there's maybe more than one character here you could say is a parallel for Hayao Miyazaki in real life. But I think him as a boy, we've got a little bit of that obviously in our main character here. Which I kept trying to like commit to memory how you say the main character's first name. Like it's like Mahito.
Mahito. Yeah, it's the same name as a character in Jujutsu Kaisen. They call him Mahito. So
Okay. And the gray Heron character here is really interesting. I don't think I realized fully how the mechanics of that character works. Like he almost is a man,
it's like a
and then he
man
can just like.
inside of the gray heron's body that like, but it's like he's like an animorph or something, but he gets stuck halfway through his transition back into a human.
But he can like swallow himself again and
Right.
become more normal Heron-like. But yeah, a lot of interesting things done with the animation here. Very true. I will say this, not to its detriment or anything like that. Maybe it doesn't purport to be anything like this, but this is probably not a great movie for kids. I think it's pretty slow paced and meditative and poetic and not. There's a lot of still silence here.
I mean, you could say that about some of his other movies as well. I think it would probably be enough to keep a kid entertained with just like the animation.
The visuals of it, yeah. I could just, and there were a couple of moments that would be a little gross for a kid. Not that a kid can't look at something gross, but that like the fish, like the sea monster guts scene was pretty. They focused on that for quite a while. I was thinking like, oh man, like a really little kid might be squirming about this, but we probably overprotect our kids from movies like this. But I would say both of us grew up watching movies that we weren't quite supposed to be the right age for yet, and it did, and here we are doing all right.
I think the voice acting was pretty great from everybody. Like, if I wouldn't have known that the Heron is Robert Pattinson, I would never in a million years guess that.
We should have touched on this. I was unable to see the dubbed version.
Oh, I did not know that. So you saw it in Japanese with subtitles. Okay. I mean, which I'm sure is good as well. I've always watched the Studio Ghibli movies in dubbed, just because that's what I had access to.
I'd like to see both versions because I know that they always do such a good job with the voice cast. Like it's not like other anime movies where you might have
it's like
not a very good voice cast. Like this gets stellar voice cast. And I wanted to see. I will eventually get around to seeing that. The showtime for that would have been like much later in the day.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And we got plans today. So
yeah.
Didn't work out, but I don't know that I'll go back to the theater and see both. But the first time I watched this after it's available to watch on streaming or however it comes, I guess on Max.
Well, I mean, if Heather wants to see it enough, you guys could go see it in English.
Yeah,
if you would want to go again.
Yeah, I would be willing to see this again. But it just, I think that things like the minimal music through this and a few other things here did make it. I felt like the pacing was a little slower than some other Miyazaki movies. Not that they all have that. They take their time, they're patient movies, but maybe a little more this one than some others that I've seen. But.
I can agree with that. They all have like their like kind of like slice of life meets magical world type thing, and this one necessarily wasn't slice of life, but it did. The beginning portion of this movie seemed like it went on for quite a bit without a lot of dialogue or anything too.
Yeah, and we've got the cutesy element here. I can't think of the name of them, but there's these little white. Creatures. I can't remember the name of them or the ones that they remind me of, but there's something in like the little white critters in Princess Mononoke, I believe. Is that Princess Mononoke or Spirited Away that those are in?
I think it might be Spirited Away.
Well, anyway, the little white creatures. This kind of reminded me. I think this might have been a little bit of a throwback to that, but I thought that was an interesting. And when you find out what they are, I think that's interesting.
Right. Yeah.
And the scene with the pelicans and them and everything, I thought that. That was kind of a powerful scene. And I think there's a metaphor to be made there, and I'm not sure it's intentional or not, but I think it's a little too spoilery to talk about here, but I want to see what you think about that. Anything else that stood out to you? Like you said, the animation is kind of the...
So, it's always top-notch. And I am a little worried if this is his last movie, because I know that the movie his son did, they gave him, like, zero support because he was using an art style that they don't like 3D animated style on the computer, that Earwig and the Witch, which I watched, and man, was it not good.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but terrible things about it, and I just don't see any benefit from watching that. I've heard such bad things. I don't think anybody likes that movie.
And I'm wondering if because of that, because I think he was planning on handing the reins over to him whenever he did retire, but then he went with that 3D route and he just didn't like it at all. It's got to be hand drawn. So hopefully they do find somebody, if they're going to continue to make Studio Ghibli movies, which I'm sure they are, to keep it hand drawn.
We'll see. When in the past he's retired and they paused production of the company entirely.
That's true. Maybe it'll just become a different production company that's somebody like a spiritual successor type of thing. Because I mean, he is getting pretty old too.
He is getting very old, and we'll just have to see what happens. I mean, they could carry it on, but I think it will always live in the shadow of Miyazaki if it does carry on without him.
Yeah.
It's going to kind of be there's a very big shoes to fill, and I think this movie is very self-referential about Studio Ghibli and Miyazaki and the world he's created and everything. So
I do love how whenever he draws old ladies and old men, they're just like their proportions of their like facial features are always so ridiculous.
these little old ladies are so tiny. They're
I
like
know.
little gnomes or something like that. But
Yeah,
they were super endearing, and the art style of them really grows on you. And then when
they all kind of look
you know,
like the Baba from Spirited Away, just different versions of
yeah,
her.
yeah. That was I had a smile on my face through a lot of the scenes with the little old ladies, and that kind of reminded me of some other like there's the little old ladies on Ponyo. Like a lot of movies have these little gaggles of old ladies being adorable. And it feels like it's intentional. Like it feels like this is like a little bit of a trip down memory lane of some of the hits of Studio Ghibli, but it's also like it's woven into the story in a way where it doesn't feel too much like greatest hits of Miyazaki. It's just like there's little winks at like if you've seen this before, you might remember that. Even the girl who kind of can bend as maybe like a firebender kind of type character or whatever. There were things about that reminded me of
Like
the
Howl's
end,
Moving Castle a little bit.
the end of Howl's Moving Castle. Yeah, like the fireworks and stuff like that she creates.
Yeah,
Something about that felt very Howl's Moving Castle to me.
yeah. It also just reminded me of Calcifer when she's kind of like in the flames speaking. But yeah,
I will say I think this is going to bear rewatch, and I think it's going to be hard to judge it right now without so many other Studio Ghibli movies I've seen multiple times. I think this is going to need more watches for me to.
I can agree with that. Like I definitely want to see it in the Japanese original language as well. But I think I need to watch it again because I've seen the other one so many times and I did like it. It's just I don't think it's one of the best ones. Like the way the commercials make it out to be his magnum opus and like the best movie he's ever made. I think the other ones.
I think that's
opinion,
a little hyperbolic.
Yeah.
But I also think. I think if you're a Studio Ghibli fan, this is like required watching too. Like,
yeah, definitely.
You can't sleep on an opportunity to see a Miyazaki, possibly the last Miyazaki film, in theaters. And like I alluded to this before, but like, did it feel like to you like maybe less music than usual, less of a score than usual?
I feel like it was. That's why the part of the movie felt quiet just a lot of the time because there wasn't a ton of dialogue throughout the whole movie, and it did seem quiet in some areas for sure.
And I think that that's something that if I was going to critique something that almost is pointless to critique, but if I was going to change something about it, I would say if we had gotten a little more time with some of the characters or building some of the relationships here, because there are a handful of people we meet along the way, and you don't get a whole lot of time with any of them besides I guess our main character here, Mahito. But overall, I mean, I guess we got to give it some kind of number. It's hard. Yeah. It's probably gonna change later.
Right. Yeah.
On rewatches, we'll see how it goes. But if you were gonna give a number to this, what would you say?
I'd probably give it like a 7.5. Like it was a good movie. Like all Studio Ghibli movies are, but yeah,
it's tough. I'd probably give it an 8 because it's just so. It's coming from a studio that just everything they come out with is so amazing. I think the things here that are great, the animation, just everything about the art and the art direction here, the colors. There's like 1,000 different shades of green in this. Everything about the visual aspects of it is so perfect. So yeah, I think it brings it up to an 8. And it's not like the story's not good. It's just I think you could probably say maybe some of the other movies that we've mentioned 1,000 times already, they might have made you feel a little more or feel a little stronger.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Is it doesn't connect you to the characters as much as some of the other movies do.
But your mileage is going to vary. I could see this. It would not surprise me at all if this is somebody's favorite movie of the year.
Yeah.
But if it's your favorite Studio Ghibli movie ever, I would be interested to see what made it your favorite Studio Ghibli movie ever.
What's your favorite Studio Ghibli movie?
Man, I'm torn between Spirited Away and Howl's Moving Castle. I've probably seen Howl's Moving Castle more at this point because of Heather.
Yeah.
But if it was, I came to this relationship saying that Spirited Away was my favorite, but I've seen Howl's Moving Castle so many times now. There's just so much to love about both of them. I think it's got to be it's a tie, I guess.
Yeah, I do.
I'm gonna cop out and say it's a tie.
I do love both of those, but it might not be other people's favorite, but I think it might be mine. I really am fond of The Secret World of Arrietty.
Let's all go to the lobby.
That's one I've never seen.
Oh, okay.
So I got to see that. Yeah. There's a handful that I've never seen that I've heard really good things about, and obviously there's not many besides maybe that Earwig and the Witch. There's not many that have any kind of bad reputation or anything like that. But there are some. The Wind Rises is one I haven't seen as well that I'd like to see. So, and I think Nausicaa is often kind of slept on.
I like Nausicaa.
That's a really good one.
I like Nausicaa, Kiki's Delivery Service. I mean, they're all great. Let's be honest.
They are all
by
great.
saying one is your favorite, like for me at least, it's by like a hair.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to choose one or the other.
Not to pile on to them in such in a video that I think is otherwise very positive, but like it is just sort of telling that in Disney's 100-year anniversary, we've got this studio that's run by essentially one very aging man who is coming out with something that I think, just based on what I've seen, looks like it has a lot more of the magic that Disney, I would think, would want to recapture with their 100-year anniversary. And it's done so much more effectively here than in what Disney came up with for their 100-year anniversary. So maybe we need to take notes. We just watched 2 movies from Japan that are just really killing it on a lot of different fronts. Kind of even more so Godzilla. Like, it's easier to get excited about the Godzilla movie, I think, but 2 really great Japanese movies that are probably going to kill it in the box office and everything. So definitely, though, if you, like we said, if you're a Hayao Miyazaki fan at all, you can't miss this while it's in theaters. You got to go see this. So anyway, I guess that's it for us. We got a Christmas movie review coming. Well, I can say it. It's Violent. We're gonna watch Violent Night. If you watch this far into the video and you're interested, would you guys be interested in either a review for May December or Leave the World Behind? Because I've watched both of those. I'm not sure if you've watched both of those yet, but 2 interesting movies on Netflix right now. So I guess we'll see if anybody says anything on here. Have to decide what we're gonna do about that. And we do have Wonka coming out very soon, so interested to see how that turns out. But yeah, thanks for watching as always, guys, and stick around for more coming very soon. And we appreciate you guys. Thanks.
All right, see ya.